simple cloth to preserve her dignity. So lift the veil from your heart to see the heart of purity. They say, sister of belief, you are so strong. This scarf is a flag of this faith where you belong. She just drops her gaze and then says with humility, I did not wear this shawl at all less than 1 year ago. I've been judged, misjudged, and misunderstood by those who do not know that faith cannot be measured by the garments that we sew. Beauty and faith objects we've reduced to a fashion show in this hijab, this mark of piety is an act of faith, a symbol for all the world to see. It's a simple cloth to preserve her dignity. So lift the veil from your heart to see the heart of purity. Lift the veil from your heart to see the heart of purity. When will we lift the veils from our hearts to seek the heart of purity?
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
It doesn't take much to bring some difference. You give some change, which makes a change. Because nothing gets mileage like a charity. Just a little change turns into a chain. And before we know it, the results are massive. So give a little to make a big difference. For donations, call now. UKIM 0207 387 2157.
Had a car accident or an accident at work? Accident specialists are experts in no-win, no-fee accident claims. Leave the hassle to us. Our multilingual settlement experts will manage the entire claims process on your behalf, with nothing to pay up front. We provide services such as credit hire, taxi vehicles, recovery, storage and much more. For full details on our range of services and a free consultation, call us on 01733 555 774 or visit our office at 249 Lincoln Road opposite the NatWest Bank. Accident specialists. Start your successful claim today.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
Gems and jewels. Wise sayings, interesting events, and moral lessons from Islamic history. A confession.
My story is plain enough. Nothing strikingly poignant about it. But I tell it to you so that perhaps you can learn from my mistake. My marriage began as a very happy union between my husband and me. We weren't rich, but we were contented with what we had. And we had a daughter whom we both loved dearly. In the early stages of our marriage, we would put our daughter to sleep, and we would then pray, glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and recite the Quran. One day, we checked our savings and realized that we had saved a considerable sum of money. And so I suggested to my husband that we should buy interest-bearing shares. the proceeds of which we could definitely use to help our daughter later on in life. We invested all that we had, including the money I made from selling all of my jewelry. After only a short time passed, the prices of the shares plunged. We went bankrupt, and we were left with many debts. We came to learn the hard way that
Allah will destroy usury and will give increase for sadaqat, meaning deeds of charity.
during one of the difficult nights that followed, I got into a huge argument with my husband and demanded that he divorce me. He then screamed out, "You are divorced from me! You are divorced from me!" Both my child and I cried, and through the many tears, it was this that was constantly going through my mind. We were joined together through obedience to Allah, and we then became separated through disobedience to Him.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salam Radio.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Sukhi Wahiwala, your host this evening, on Tuesday evening, your favourite show, The Empower Hour. Yes, I know you're listening and you're thinking, oh, I wish I could be on Sukhi's show. But you can. Just get in touch. You know my number. You know the main number here. So just touch base with yourself as well. If you'd like to get involved in tonight's discussion, conversation with a tremendous individual called Nicholas Haines, I'll touch base with you in an introduction to him in a moment. But as you know, a lot of this sort of stuff is impromptu, and we flow with how things are going. And as you've noticed, we bring world-class lead individuals from around the world and the globe here in little old Peterborough on our amazing show. The show is listened to, so if you're tuning in from India, Pakistan, Africa's, the Americas, and Europe, hey, hello. Oh, mustn't forget Australia, because I did have somebody coming from Australia the other week, and she sent me a lovely text, a client of mine. So, welcome to the show once again. Every Tuesday evening between 7 and 8 o'clock, it is the Salam Radio Empower Hour show. If you'd like to get involved, do not forget, please keep in touch. You can see us on YouTube Live. You can see us on Facebook Live right now on the Salam Radio Facebook site, or on the Salam Radio YouTube site, which is live. If you'd like to text in and communicate with Nick or Nicholas, as we will work out later, then please do contact on Peterborough, which is UK basically, 01733 602 133. That's direct to the studio. And if you'd like to get involved in any of the debates with WhatsApp, etc., then please, you know the number is 07745 278 978. Really simple, 07745 278 978. So this evening, wow, this evening I'm going to bring to you somebody who's very close to me and very revered as a personal friend, and actually as a brother of mine, to be honest with yourself. And he's sitting in front of me, and I'm kind of just being very open and honest here. Nicholas Haines, aka Nick to myself, and I'm very proud to say that I'm a good friend of his. I would actually probably classify Nick more as a brother and as an indirect mentor. You know, he's such a beautiful soul who's actually found his vision, his purpose here on the planet, and he's creating this change across the globe. When we get close with Nick this evening, you will understand where I'm coming from myself as well. Nicholas Haines, he is the founder of the Five Institute. Now, the Five Institute is a global phenomenon when it comes to Chinese energy understandings. He is the creator of the vitality test. He is an individual who's spoken on stages, multiple authored many books, which we're going to talk about one of them this afternoon, this second session and session 2. But above all, I've known Nick genuinely as a humble human who really feels for this world, for this earth, in its energy and its flow. And he's the most beautiful of people as a husband, as a father. So I'd like to take no further time to introduce Nicholas Haines. Nick, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a fantastic introduction. I think it's really important that my wife was listening to that, so she can really appreciate it.
So, Sue, just to be very clear with yourself, did you hear that? God bless you as well.
Yeah.
Sue was actually Nicholas's wife. So
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you very much. And also, I feel very much the same about you, that kind of personal connection, brothers.
Thank you very much, Nick.
So it really matters a lot to me.
Much appreciated. So this evening, we're going to talk a little bit about personal stuff. You're not really in that habit of sharing some of your personal introductions and stuff, but the reality is that you really are a man who's come from not the best of everything, but somebody who's seen it as the best of everything, who's actually turned his own life around for not just yourself, but for everybody whose life you touch. You are an academic controller of knowledge for thousands on this planet when it comes to Chinese medicine understanding and Chinese energy understanding. We are going to touch a little bit about this in a moment, and I'm sure you don't really appreciate too many compliments, Nick, but I'm afraid this is radio. I have to share the truth. Nick, how a little dicky bird tells me that I know that you actually faced. I know today things are absolutely stunning and they're amazing. You're in the space of helping the world, and I think that's a commendable change. And I mean, through soul work, through understanding of self-healing, self-structure, but also about the self-psychology of a person's mind. Yes, if I'm correct. So, a little thing that I'm just going to ask yourself is that you started from a very humble humble environment. I know you're one of a few children, but from my memory, the last time I remember, you mentioned that at a very young age of 5, you were fostered, right?
Yes, I think there's lots of. I mean, to be honest, if you look at Born in the West,
Mm-hmm.
I'm incredibly privileged. Yes. I had lots of advantages. I in no way claim that it was a hard existence compared to many of people that we share the planet with that are really tough. But everyone's experience is their experience, and it's tough for you regardless of what it is. So when I was 5, my mother was very ill, and she was in hospital for quite a long period of time, and we were fostered around different families, many of them family friends, but there was a strategy of not wanting to overload any family member for that long. So their strategy was every couple of months they'd move us to another family. And this went on for a year and a bit. So it was almost as though you just got settled in, and then it was a move, and then you just got. And that's a very common experience with people that are fostered or moved around. That there's constant change.
That's not so easy to understand. Actually, that's not really easy to couple and understand and say, "Wow, that's just a common thing." Were those fostering families, even though they were relatives and friends, were they close by, or was it geographically quite a move?
Some of it was geographical, some of it was quite close by. But I think one of the things is your interpretation of the circumstance. You don't really understand that actually it was happening because I was loved and I was put into these families to be loved and protected, and the families were very kind. One's perhaps and you don't understand that actually you're being moved every couple of months because my parents didn't want to impose too much on these families. We were large families already, and we were all separate. All the 5 of us were into separate families.
Oh my goodness!
So we were all
5 children.
5 children.
5 brothers and siblings.
Yes, siblings. So some of us, my sisters were together at various times, 2 of them. But you don't really understand that logic, and as an adult I understand, the logic as to why parents would do that. But as a child, you have to make meaning out of that experience. And my meaning was that I must be doing something wrong to be moved around so frequently, and to be into different families in the first place. Maybe it was because something wasn't right in me.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe it didn't quite work out with this family because I didn't quite play it right, or something had gone on. As a 5-year-old, you can make all sorts of meaning. So the net result was that I had all sorts of interpretations and meanings as to what was happening. And one of my conclusions was that I must be pretty worthless as an individual to be moved around. And the other one was I became hypersensitive to environments. Because if you moved, you say, okay, if I can work out this environment, then I'm not going to get moved, or I can work out and you moved into families very quickly, so you have to work out what's the family dynamic, where's the power structure. Obviously, as a 5-year-old, you don't think, what's the power structure here? you just kind of work out who you need to be watch out for, who you need to be scared of, who you need to.
Can I just ask a question, Nick? What you're talking about is it's mind-boggling, to be honest. So I'm just going to ask a question. So you're talking about actually understanding, and with your hypersensitivity, just to clarify that for the viewers, the listeners, that hypersensitivity means that you are becoming super aware of your scenario and of each environment that you are in very quickly. So you're kind of very quickly attuning yourself to this environment at such a young age. Is that something?
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, but it was also from a very anxious place. But ultimately, that was going on, trying to make sense and working out, okay, what's going on in this family? It'd be really good if everyone could get on. So I also developed a set of values around. It would be really good if we could all get on, because then it's going to be a much better scenario. So win-win situation scenarios, making people feel good, making people laugh. There's lots of strategies we all adopt to try and create this unity that we see. And there was a hypersensitivity about unity as well.
About connection, about being one.
Yeah, about being one. And it's one of the things that you and I have very much met on, this place of how do we create a oneness together.
We were having that lovely conversation once only a couple of 3 months ago.
Yeah.
We were talking about it, weren't we? The oneness of all of us, just the oneness. Yeah, I love it. And I'm going to tell everybody live on air, actually, he's helping me write the book, so you can't back out of it now, Nick.
I can't, and I would never want to. I would never want to. It's going to be an amazing book. God bless you. Yeah. And we're going to touch on your book a bit later in the second half. But this hypersensitivity, this attention to human nature, this attention to people's personality, this inner vision or want to synchronize with other people's worlds, would it be correct in saying that's actually served you in a benefit, as well as the fact that it was sat on anxiety? Yes, I think it's clearly served me, because I fitted in quite quickly into families, and then later in life I moved schools quite frequently with my father's. When family got back together, we moved schools quite frequently, and I went from a private school that was very regimented and very harsh to a Rudolf Steiner school that was very open and community based, to a North London comprehensive where I was very much in a minority and I couldn't work out. So I had to work out, how do you fit from rah-rah to this to that with no notice.
Yeah, and the Steiner schools are really, it's a very different philosophy of thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's quite a lot. And what sort of age group is this then?
So I moved when we were 9 to the Steiner school, then 15 from the Steiner school, the North London comprehensive to the... and the North London in the 1970s comprehensive, they were tricky places. We hadn't we were mucking around with a lot of kids who were struggling to get through, and the country was mucking around with education and trying to do good, but it was quite tough. It was quite tough. Quite a lot. Yeah.
So just to touch them, that's quite a disparity. So why are we talking about this? Because today's kind of interview, in essence, or sharing or time with you, the Empower Hour, it's just to outline how we can still overcome these extremes, and we self-impose. That's what you were saying. We self-impose these pre-frames on ourselves, But we'll touch about that in a mo. My question to yourself is that, you said that you ran quite, different number of schools, but there was were all the schools equal in their stress levels or their communication or anxiety levels, or did you find the older you became, the more the desire to fit in became?
I think the schools were fundamentally different in their nature, in that the first school was very kind of bullying orientated. It was very hierarchy, status. You had a certain thing. That's a game they played. The Rudolf Steiner school was very much how do we create unity. So it was a map. So I was at my calmest, and then the North London Comprehensive was again looking at how very diverse cultures trying to work out how to get along together. it was the same time as when Turkey invaded half of Cyprus, so there was a lot of tension going on, the dynamic going on there. So it was, and a lot of poverty, and people can do things as a result of poverty. So the schools are very different, and in a way they played into my anxiety, because I had lots of anxiety. I was kind of just very anxious and always watching everything, and observing everything has a value to it, and it's made me very good at it. It's also exhausting. Because you're just playing out this consciously the whole time. You're watching what's going on here. How can I get out of this situation? How can I fit in? How can I, whatever one was trying to do? And I think our listeners we'll all have been in situations where we've had to fundamentally deal with change.
Absolutely.
And we've had to adapt very, very quickly. And which part of us is able to adapt quickly, and which part of us struggles to adapt.
So we're going to touch on that in a moment. But the question of, you also mentioned that there was an element of, you could say a little bit of an element of bullying as well. Now, I know that we have a very strong young listenership as well, and there's a lot of families listening. So communication between children, bullying, that kind of thing, and then also how it translates into the family, because sometimes this can affect relationships at home. Now, the fact that you were away from your siblings, and possibly one sister you were close to her at one time, but all of this segregation, what sort of period of time did you find that your relationship between your siblings was fractured in the same way?
No, it was actually the opposite. I think people often come together, communities come together, and families come together at times of adversity. So we very much came together as a family, as siblings, at a time of adversity, and we worked out how we could get along together. So it was but it was also an awareness that doesn't always happen in families, and what allowed us to function together, because we were all, I've lost two of my sisters, but we were very very different people. And so how do you get on together? How do you do that? But I think one of my things, as we'll touch on later, some of my aspects of work is how do you keep a flow going within a family or a situation? If someone, for example, is being bullied and they don't feel confident or able to talk about it because of their perceived reaction that they're going to get, or the perceived where they should be, how they should be behaving, their response, it can create enormous problems. So I have a very strong set of values, is that we don't bully, we don't do blame, we don't bully, we don't do any of that stuff. So whenever I see bullying going on in society, or a group being victimized or being pulled, actually, you know what, I will do anything to stop that. It's probably my kind of highest kind of value.
Highest value, I like that. So just to touch base, if you don't mind, Nick, and I'm sure you don't, but you just touched, I believe, on kind of the holy grail of relationships, and that was basically, you touched it as no bullying, and we said getting on with each other, respecting their space, and those 4 or 5 things you said, they, without us getting into political agenda, that seems to be missing right now in the family, as well as in the workplace, as well as in the world.
Yeah, I think there's a subtle dimension to it, and I think the way to really to deal with and support that for people is to really say, and this is our family motto, is we don't do blame, we do learning.
Wow.
And if you can get to a place where you are creating a non-blame culture, and because a lot of us make mistakes, but that's because we don't know what we now know. So if people say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that," you did. Well, I know I shouldn't have done it, but I didn't know what I know now. So having a kind of a non-blame learning culture,
that's just superb.
And it creates a real difference. I mean, we do have a joke. I said, we don't do blame, we do learning. But if you're going to bully, hunt in packs.
Oh my goodness.
because it's the joke, isn't it?
Wow,
but
yes.
people hunt in packs.
Bring in humour.
Yeah, we bring in humour. That's what people do. They hunt in packs. They get a group of people together and they will hunt someone else or an individual.
Absolutely. That's portrayed within movies and everything as well.
Yes, exactly. And we see that at lots of different levels. So it's trying to say, how can we get a much better understanding of each other and what's going on, and how can we fundamentally have a very deep core understanding about who we are,
yes,
and who we could be as individuals, or who we could be as society.
This is, I suppose, where you're, I assume you're talking about the higher self and the best you. I think you were touching on that. Does this mean that we can become, something that we cannot perceive before? Is this something we're talking about?
Yeah, I think we can have a situation where there is, in reality, in every situation, every scenario, we have an opportunity for the highest version of us to show up, to appear. Mm-hmm. Whether or not we step into that person, lots of other things stop us. But there is a possibility that the highest version of us could appear at this moment in time. And it might be the person that stands up against someone else that's bullying, or it might be you that actually, I'm in this very difficult situation at work, or I have made an error, mm-hmm. and the highest version of me could forgive myself, be compassionate, be kind, just learn from it, or the lowest version of me could really beat myself up about this.
My goodness, yes.
And so I often, as you know, some of my work, we have something called conscious questions, which are questions that you consciously decide to ask in order to get your unconscious mind and your imagination to provide the answers to. Because your unconscious mind and your imagination will answer any question you ask it. So I'm often in a situation, I'll often say to myself, okay, what would the highest version of me do in this situation? Mm-hmm. And then I also ask, what would the lowest version of me do in this situation?
That is powerful.
And then I try to find
the medium.
I tried, because if you constantly set in the game for the highest version of yourself, then you'll fall short, because we're kind of fundamentally human. But if I have an idea of what would the lowest version of me do here? Well, the lowest version of me, say with your kids, you're in a situation and they've done something, or they're in late or whatever. What would the lowest version of me here? Well, I'd ridicule them, I make them feel really bad. Whatever it is, we know what we could do because we perhaps will have done it. So what would the highest version of me do? Well, the highest version of me might listen openly to what's going on, listen without prejudgment, might not have preformed ideas, and just listen to the extent that they know that they're being heard in a way that they aren't normally heard.
So for the audience, just this evening, so just to listen so they can understand, let's put some kind of framework, let's take the framework and put a scenario to it. This is fundamental information, team. I'm telling you, if the Inspired Tribe is listening, and as you all are, this is fundamental to understand, because the information that Nick's just sharing there about that being polarized with clarity, with control, where the highest version would do the best in the scenario for the other person, the lowest version of me would condemn them as much as I possibly could, and ridicule them and make them and bully them in essence as well, and strip the other person of their confidence. Now, if anybody's listening and this is kind of happening to you, or you're accidentally not realizing that you're doing this to other people, tonight's the night to change. Now's the time when we have a master like Nick Haines here in the room, and we've had these discussions many a time, both Nick and myself. What can you change today in order to be aware, to be alive, and to be aware of your highest version of yourself and the lowest version of yourself in that moment? So Nick, I'm going to ask you a question. If somebody here is having a challenge with work bullying, or people actually portraying the lowest version of themselves to them, in the sense of oppressing them in some format, and then on the same token, they've accidentally not realized that they're passing that on to somebody else in the home, at work. Maybe they've had a bit of an argument somewhere, and they've come to the house and they've delivered their lowest self. This is kind of what you're talking about. So in a scenario, could you help our live audience live with reference to some questions they could ask themselves? Because this is being recorded, and this is going to be recorded forever, right? So we could have this as a bit of a session. I know it's not what you do usually on radio, but would you be able to just give me, I can't believe we've only got 3 minutes left, but give me some kind of open questions that they could ask, those questions to interrogate themselves.
Yeah. Well, the first core thing you need to do is to recognize whatever has happened, that was a previous version of you.
Uh-huh.
And the current version of you knows something that you didn't know.
So that's back down to the knowledge.
That's back down to the knowledge. So the first thing you do is you don't go back and beat up an earlier version of yourself, because that isn't kind, it isn't considerate. You just learn from them. And what that does is allows you to have a more balanced perspective, and it allows you to not undermine who you are. You also know in that moment in time, if you make that promise that I don't go back and beat myself up, I go back and I learn, you also get in a situation that you're not going to be beaten up by the next version of you, which is what undermines our confidence to change, is that if we ever were to make a mistake, we know that a future version of us is going to come and give us a hard time.
And reflect upon it.
So what you fundamentally do, the first stage that we fundamentally do, is we say, I am not going to beat up an earlier version of myself based on what they don't know.
That's beautiful.
And if you do that and you stick to, that's rule one, just don't beat up earlier versions of yourself. If you do, then you just apologize and say, well, look, I apologise. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to ask, what was the lesson there? What was the learning? And one's almost doing that within our relationships. And if you stick to that for even a short amount of time, and I love when we'll get people to do this, to pledge, to promise, to sign a piece of paper, to even write it down. I promise not to beat up an earlier version of myself for what I... So you might be in a scenario at work in which you lost your temper because this happened. Are you then going to compound it by beating yourself up for losing your temper at work or handling something better? You can't get to be your next version of yourself if you're constantly living as the old version of yourself, and the current version of yourself is always beating yourself up.
Because you're not learning anything.
You're not learning. And as children, we do this. We just do this all the time.
Sorry, I'm just looking because we're just double checking on making sure things are working properly on the tech. So what you're doing basically is you're telling people, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have that same reaction.
Yes.
That fair? Yeah.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Where can you get high quality and low prices? Amar Food Store and Halal Meat in Lincoln Road, Triangle is the place to go. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. Also send money to Pakistan absolutely free. We have all top brands at special offers, offer free customer parking and provide a free local delivery service. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call us on 01733 687 374. High in quality, low in prices.
Al Murad Tiles. With over 70 stores nationwide, we are now open in Peterborough. Up to 50% discount offers now on. Largest selection of tiles. Full bathroom suites from only £189. Paint, LED lighting, laminate flooring from only £7.99. Over 1,000 designs of wallpaper in stock. We have everything you need. Come and visit us at 193 Fengate, Peterborough, PE1 5BH, or call us on 01733 34 58 47. Al Murad Tiles, now open.
Had a car accident or an accident at work? Accident specialists are experts in no-win, no-fee accident claims. Leave the hassle to us. Our multilingual settlement experts will manage the entire claims process on your behalf, with nothing to pay up front. We provide services such as credit hire, taxi vehicles, recovery, storage and much more. For full details on our range of services and a free consultation, call us on 01733 555 774 or visit our office at 249 Lincoln Road opposite the NatWest Bank. Accident specialists. Start your successful claim today.
There's a million choices available for dining out in Leeds.
But if you want something special, there's only one name to remember.
Mumtaz Leeds.
Relax in our newly refurbished Riverside restaurant.
Enjoy exquisite home cooking from our brand new menu. Upgrade to the Mumtaz Leeds experience.
And the price? Well, we're better value than ever before.
Mumtaz Leeds, Chadwick Street, Leeds, LS10 1PJ. Call 0113 242 4211.
Free car parking available.
Gems and jewels. Wise sayings, interesting events, and moral lessons from Islamic history. The way of a Muslim in his life.
The life of a Muslim must stand on 7 foundations. Adherence to Allah's book, following the way of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, eating that which is lawful, refraining from harming others, staying away from sins, repenting frequently, and fulfilling the rights of others. In the past and present, the great Islamic jurists of this nation have confirmed that the Muslim's life must be based on the aforesaid foundations. Brother Muslim, you must remain firm upon those 7 comprehensive foundations by the will of Allah until the day you die.
You're listening to Peterborough's Community Radio, Salam Radio, 106.2 FM.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Sukhi, your host this evening on the Empower Hour show. And I know you look forward to every single Tuesday evening between 7 and 8. But remember, don't let me down. Be here. Get involved. Feel free to share on our mobile phone network. We can go on WhatsApp directly on 07745 278 978. That's 07745 278 978. So please get involved if you wish to, if you think that's right for you. Help us out. Communicate. Help yourself. We have an amazing response from this morning. This first session with Nick Haines, and the founder of the 5 Institute, and also the Vitality Test, amongst many other awards and things. I'm in the presence of royalty here. So, Nick, I'm just going to bring you back in. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Great. Sue, did you hear that one as well? That Sue basically is Nick's wife.
She's actually at a yoga class at this moment in time.
She can listen to
she
you
can listen
on
to
the reverse,
replay. Yes.
So we're saying hello. So, Nick, just before we had a break there, apologies, by the way, if anyone's listening, we're having a few technical issues with some of the software, so we're just doing the best we possibly can, but please stay with us and stay focused as well. Now, we're back for the second half, and before we left in the first up, we were talking specifically, Nick, about anxiety, and in essence of the lower self, the lowest version of self, and the highest version of self. So I'm going to hand the stage back to yourself just to complete that conversation, because we had to stop it just in the middle. And it was connected to making that conscious decision when you're in the middle of an argument to actually stand aside and look back at yourself. And that's where you were going, I think, with the conversation. Yeah. So back to yourself, Nick. Please continue.
Yeah, so it's very much kind of looking at that you don't beat up earlier versions of yourself. And because in order to do that, you fundamentally then create a better sense of self. Mm-hmm. And from a place of feeling good about yourself, it's much easier to have relationships if you feel good about yourself, because you don't need to make the other person feel bad. Because often we do that, don't we? We kind of make the other person feel bad to try and make ourselves feel better, but then we feel bad because we made them feel bad, and so it cycles. So let's just work. Let's just do. We feel good about ourselves. You get yourself in that position. You don't beat yourself up. You grow. You learn, etc.
Just on that point, just before you go on. Sorry, so, do apologise to interject there. But so if a person finds that they're continuously either beating themselves up or making other people feel bad, this could be a mum. It could be a dad, it could be a son, it could be a daughter, it could be a school teacher, it could be a business owner or an employee, somebody out there who's having these anxiety issues and thus making somebody else feel bad. Mm. Again, the element of beating themselves up, by them realizing they're making somebody feel bad, it's okay just to kind of self-apologize. You were saying this earlier on, just apologize and then say, I won't do it again, and move on.
Yeah. You make a pledge. You promise not to do it. And the kind of rule one is, you don't beat yourself up. And one of the second rules is if you make a mistake and you do beat yourself up, then don't worry about it. That happens. Wow. So it's creating that, again, that self-care, that self-kindness. We're all just learning and growing. Because if we then beat ourselves up for doing that, when we don't feel good about ourselves, and it spirals. And as parents or work colleagues or whatever, we have an expectation about how we're meant to be. Yes, as a parent, I'm meant to be forever tolerant, or I'm meant to be this, or I'm meant to be. We have preconceived ideas about. So if we fall short of that preconceived idea, or fall short of how our parents with us, because perhaps we're a different personality, then it's very easy to start to give yourself a really hard time about it. And then does that then bring out the best in you if you beat yourself up? Well, no, it doesn't. You just perpetuate it. So there's should I tell you the secret to stopping beating yourself up?
I've got to do this. I'm afraid the audience are listening.
Yeah, the secret is just stop it. That's it. You just stop it.
Yeah, and give you a high five. I'm afraid live on air.
You just stop. Just don't do it. But recognise it's a habit. So you can say I'm going to stop doing it, but the habit creeps in. You go, oh God, I've done it again. Just beat myself up. For that, no one likes a smart aleck, do they? No. But us as our current version of us, we're so smart and clever because we just know so much more than a previous version of yourself. But it's a bit like, oh God, I can't believe it. I was so embarrassed. There I was as a newborn baby. I had no bladder control. I was just wetting myself. I was burping. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. How could I exist like that? Well, because you didn't know anything different.
That's so significant.
But yet we do that.
Yeah. It's so significant. As a child, you can't expect a newborn baby to know when they're weeing and pooing.
No.
You know? But somehow we expect ourselves to have hit a certain peak in our life, a crescendo in essence, and everything from there onwards has to be perfect. We should know better.
Yeah.
How rubbish is that?
Absolutely, and or if you're a teenager and you're going into a new scenario and you don't know the dynamic and how to do that, you might be meeting someone or going into a new group and you don't quite get it right, and you say the wrong thing, or you turn up in the wrong clothes, or you whatever it is that we do, or you like the wrong post or whatever. What do you do then? Do you beat yourself up because you didn't know what you didn't know now? Or do you just say, okay, that was a learning?
It's genius logic.
Yeah, so it's about feeling good about yourself. And once you feel good about yourself, you can then start to have a different feeling about other people. And then it's really a matter of, if you're in a scenario or a situation of doing these conscious questions, what would be a really good question to ask here? So you might be having a row with your partner, and they're acting that, and they might be really fired up and etc. So what you could do is first thing you need to do is just try and just step above it and out from it to the what would my highest version do here? What would my lowest version do here? My lowest version here might defend my position to the nth degree and just prove that I'm right, because I usually am. Or you might ask a question of, I wonder why they're stressed at the moment. I wonder what's going on
in their world. Yeah.
And you're stepping out of it, or just asking a question of, is being right really important here
at this
moment in time, or what's the long game strategy on this? Or if you can't help yourself say something back, you might just ask yourself, I wonder what's going on for me at this moment that makes me feel that it's impossible to. So you're moving your energy in the conversation to somewhere else. We're moving away from a reactive and a more we're blessed with this consciousness.
Yeah.
But most of us, including myself, we dip out of it a lot of the time. So some of the idea with these conscious questions is to pause, to reflect, to understand your nature, and ask questions of yourself, of your unconscious mind, to move the conversation on, because it's not clever or big to.
So It isn't, I'm afraid, and it's not always right, is it?
No.
And even then, what is my right now doesn't have to be the real right, does it? Because it's the outcome that we're probably trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So I heard something there. It says your nature. Now, my audience knows, I mean, the Inspired Tribe, they all know that I talk a lot about psychometrics. Now, you're a master in your game, and I think I'm not so bad in what I deliver as well. We've shared each other's classrooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
The similarities between what I talk about within the psychometrics and the ancientness of what you share within the scientific 5 energies. This is about your nature, which you're talking about. So there was a word that you came up with earlier, and you said nature, and you said transition as well. So help the audience. How would they transition from somebody who didn't know, who had to be right, or had to accept somebody else's right, to this new energy of being able to step out of oneself and consciously step away and take a breath? You know, there's an old saying that says, if you're getting angry, it's like a seesaw. When the other person gets angry, you go cold, and then you can level it off back again afterwards. So, but that takes a lot of conscious effort to know. And it sounds very confusing in the conversation we're having right now, but it's really quite simple what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve an awareness of self. You said the consciousness, to aware that we're consciously doing something right or wrong.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Yeah. So that, I think, was my big kind of breakthrough. So I kind of went through the teenage thing very anxious, and I ended up as a kind of about 20-year-old working in Los Angeles in America, and I was working at an acupuncture college, and I had to study some of the acupuncture Chinese medical theory to make sense of the world. And I remember sitting in that very first class when they were talking about the 5 elements, or the 5 energies, as I like to call them, and it was like I suddenly saw the world, the matrix. I saw,
Oh my God, yeah.
I saw why I was as I was, and although they were talking about health and bowels and different things, I saw something beyond it. I saw economics, I saw politics, I saw business, I saw world structures, I saw a different set of thinking, and fundamentally I got to understand in an instant me.
Wow.
Through these energies, and one of the simple ways to look at it is each energy we're born with a mix of these energies. We have all 5. Some are slightly more dominant than others, but each one will give you a big question, a question that you approach everything with. I have a lot of earth energy, and my big question is, do I understand, and am I understood? So
before we go into that, could we just cover the 5 elements?
Yeah.
And then the audience get a bit of a framework, if it's okay.
Yeah. So the 5 energies are water energy, wood, fire, earth, and metal.
So water,
wood, fire, earth, and metal.
Okay, wonderful. Right.
Okay. So those are the. So I have a lot of earth energy. So my big question is, do I understand? As a 5-year-old, I couldn't understand. So I was all the time trying to understand. And because I couldn't understand, I became anxious, I became stressed, because I could not make sense. So as soon as I had this model, this framework of the 5 energies, I suddenly, I understand the world. And in an instant, just like that, in an instant, my anxiety completely disappeared. And I've not had it to this day.
So hang on, that's a massive thing.
For me and my energy, it was massive.
So you're telling the world and our audience today that because you're an earth energy, which you're going to describe all these energies, that the moment you realized that your anxiety was embedded in the fact of not having that resolution of understanding, it was gone, because that's all I need to do then.
All I need to do, yeah.
So if there was somebody from, let's say, for example, when you explain all the 5 energies in a moment, who's a water energy, who's having anxiety, as long as they understand their element clearer, their psychology clearer, you could probably inspire them to realize the fact that as long as they accepted their highest question, that's rhetorical, we call it in my synagogues method, you call it something very specific as well, that as long as they resolve that question, they won't have anxiety.
Yeah, they awareness that they have that question, and it also it points to where your confidence comes from.
Amazing.
So you can have my core confidence can be fine, but put me in a situation where I don't understand what's going on. My situational confidence, my confidence in that situation can be very low. So you're wonderful before the show. You said we're going to do this, we're going to do this, you're going to do this. I was very relaxed because I understood what was expected of me. If you just said, oh, turn up in the studio, I would feel anxious because the situation had no understanding.
Yeah.
So it affects your confidence, it affects your anxiety, it affects your ability to step up, it affects, if you're in an organisation and you're trying to have change going on and you don't explain to the earth energy people what's going on and why you need to do the change and what their role in is it, then they won't be able to do the change, or they'll find it difficult or stressful. It will create stress. So each energy has something that they're trying to answer and make sense of. So water energy, a rhetorical question, a big question that they approach life with. So water energy, their big question is, am I safe? Is it safe? Mm-hmm. So they will go into a situation and they will assess the safety of it. That's very different than going to a situation and do the understanding. So someone with a lot of water energy, if they came in here, mm-hmm. they would be work out, okay, where's the fire escape, what's going on here, what's going on the doors, what's going on here, how mine is, I wonder what Sukhi's how it's going to work. Ask me.
So just to describe, if you don't mind, the energies before we explain them all. What is water energy in essence, and what is each energy in essence, and then that'd be really helpful for us all.
So the essence, in a way, is its question, and it has lots of associated things. So water energy is associated with winter, and in winter you live with the consequences of your circumstance. If you didn't look after crops, or you didn't harvest, then you starve. If you had a really good season and things in winter, you have a good time. So in economic winters, if in a business you didn't build up some reserves, get some capital, get some things, when we hit an economic winter, a water energy phase, you have consequences. However, if you amassed quite a lot of money and you have some good reserves and resources in the water energy winter phase, you're having a ball. You're buying businesses, you're doing all sorts of things. So someone with a lot of water energy will all the time be saying, is it safe? Do I have reserves? Do I have this? So they will be amassing reserves and resources because that's what makes them feel safe. So there are kind of advantages and disadvantages. But what we can also do is we can test our big question. So you could be testing your safety by you have total financial security, mm-hmm. and then you just take a risk that just was a bit too far. And why have you done that? Well, you want to find the answer to the big question of, am I safe?
Am I still safe?
Am I still safe? Or you might stay up all night working or push your body or run marathons. Do I have the reserves and the stamina to keep going? Can I do this? You're testing and playing out. Whereas wood energy is related to spring. It's about newness and freshness. And in spring, we have a stuckness before spring arrives. And then we have this blossom and everything appears.
A burst of energy.
Burst of energy. So wood energy is about stuckness and movement and freedom. And their big question is, am I free? Are we free? So they're all the time saying, they'll go into a situation and they go, well, you're telling me what to do here. I want to have a bit of choice. So you need to give them a bit of choice. Children, when they go through, they might be not wood energy types, but they go through a wood energy phase of growth, newness and things. Sorry, it hit the mic there. They're going through this phase of newness and growth, a wood energy phase. And if they're wood energy as well, you've got a double whammy. And you can't tell me what to do. How can you do this? I want my freedom. You can't tell. And they try and break away, or they test their freedom.
I understand that.
So if you have a lot of wood energy and your child has a lot of wood energy, and at work you're being involved with some change that you really don't like, and you're being told what to do, and you're really stuck, or something is you're trying to work out and you can't shift it and move it and you're very stuck, hey, welcome to home when you get with another teenager that's stuck and it does. Whereas once you, as both individuals, as a child, as an adult, you say, okay, this is our energy, that we are prone to stuckness, and what does this energy like? Well, this energy likes creativity and imagination. Mm-hmm. Then don't go to battle with your kid over something that you're stuck with and they're stuck with. Play imaginary games or ask questions that might shift it. Well, imagine if you're right and I'm right, or imagine if we're both wrong. What would that be? Or
there's your highest and the lowest.
Highest and lowest self. Yeah. So, and then fire energy is related to summer. That's kind of hot, passionate, expansive, very highly more sensitive people. So we know in DISC we see that higher level of persons.
Skill. Yeah, they're on or off.
Yes.
That's right.
And their big question is, am I loved or am I appreciated?
Mm-hmm.
Or the really important one is, do I bring joy? Do I bring happiness?
Mm-hmm.
So as a fire energy child, and you can see this family dynamic or in a work situation where the dynamic and people are really not happy, you think, oh, I need to bring joy. So you start clowning around or whatever to bring joy or happiness or lighten the mood or crack a joke. And it might not always be appropriate to crack that joke, but you want to bring joy because you really don't like the lack of joy and the happiness and whatever. So, but if you say you crack a joke and it really bombed,
yes, people didn't expect it.
People didn't expect it, or they didn't do it, or it just wasn't appropriate, or people just didn't find it funny because they were too uptight about something else. What do you do then? You beat yourself up because you told a joke. So we're back to that beating self up. So we can.
So just let go. Basically,
let go. And
I made that in my past judgment.
That was the past.
Yeah.
And or if you're recognizing that someone at work has a lot of fire energy, then if you're going to do change, then you need to appreciate and value what they have done and who they are. You can't say it's all rubbish. We're going to change. We're going to do this. Everything's been new. Oh, so I didn't do a good job before. Well, there's implicit messages within change.
So if you're in for that position, you have to appreciate them first.
Yeah.
And then offer the change.
Yeah. Or if you're a parent and you're perhaps, as you've done recently, you've had a bereavement and you're a sadness, you might have lost some joy in the family. For a fire energy child to feel the laughter's gone from the family can be intensely painful.
Even more so.
More so.
As well.
And what they want is laughter, but how do we laugh and still grieve to show that we loved the person? Because we've got to grieve because we need to show that we love the person. We can't. So how do you deal with that dynamic? Well, you have to take into account that that's actually child. So you might need to have, okay, we're going to have time off from our respect and grit, and we're just going to do fun. We're going to do some fun stuff. Yeah. But you can't turn around to a wood energy and say, we're going to do fun stuff and I want you to turn up on Tuesday and we're going to have, well, you can't tell me what to do. So you've got to, again, manage it.
Tell you what it is.
Yeah. Or someone with a family, a work party, we're going to celebrate and have, well, if they have a different energy, they're going to feel uncomfortable with it. Yeah. So you've got to be appropriate for the energy. Earth energy, we talked about, it's late summer, it's desire to understand, be understood, lots of teachers, it's a desire to bring people together. You know, it's why I do what I do. I want people to come together. I want people to understand each other. It's why I do the energies, because I kind of want you to understand who you are and understand who I am, and all of us get on together and deal with stuff. And then that kind of metal energy is related to autumn. And in autumn, things end, they disconnect, they finish. So with metal energy, their big question is, what's missing, what isn't there? Mm-hmm. And often what they'll do in order to find that measurement, to find the answer to that question, they'll say, oh, I know how to do, I'll do numbers. Numbers will tell me what is and what isn't.
So
because
I got it.
So you
like numbers.
Yeah, you like numbers because they give you measurements, and the measurements tell you what's there and what isn't there. But in your relationships, you've got to be careful. You can't metal energy. Well, how much do you love me on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, that doesn't quite work.
Doesn't kind of quite work if it's a person with fire energy, or if you're constantly saying with it, you have a lot of fire energy. Oh, I love you. I remember I told a girlfriend once who had a lot of metal energy. Oh, I love you. She goes, yes, you told me last month.
Yeah, and that's enough.
That's enough. Whereas 2 fire energies, oh, I love you, no, I love you, no, I love you, I love you. So, and that's fine if you're doing it, but you need to recognize what the other person's need. Mm-hmm. So if I go away with my wife who has a lot of water energy and metal energy, we go arrive somewhere and she needs to feel safe.
And get a structure.
And get a structure where things are, and have you got everything? Have we not missed anything? Have we left anything behind? Arrive early, and she arrives in a hotel and wants to find out where the fire. With my earth energy, I want to kind of find where the restaurant is and have some food and understand what we're going to do. Yeah, in convivialness. Connecting with. Yeah. So once you get to the place that you can really understand someone's situation and you're getting into a relationship or a discussion, you can say, okay, I can see where they're coming from, and I recognize that I'm entering a situation with my perspective on the world, or my big question of, is it safe, am I free, whatever it might be. And that changes that dynamic. So
if anybody's just tuned in, you have just had a masterclass on the 5 energies. We've got the 5th one to cover yet.
Yeah, we've done it, metal energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've done metal.
Yeah. So we've done water with the am I safe? Wood, freedom. Fire, am I loved? Do I bring joy? Earth, am I understand? Do I understood? And that metal energy, what's missing? What isn't there?
Did you get it?
Yeah.
So if everyone's got that, we've just had a masterclass by the master himself, Nicholas Haines. And don't say that I don't bring world-class individuals to you here, or right here in little old Peterborough on Salam Radio, on our amazing organisation. You've got to tune in, keep into 106.2 FM if you're listening via FM, or alternatively, please connect with us via our Facebook or YouTube sites as well. I cannot believe that we're running through so quickly, we're burning through this knowledge. Nicholas, I have to say something to yourself. This is mind-blowing stuff, and it's real. If, as I'm sure our audience and listeners are trying to get hold of you and trying to think, okay, so Nick has had an epiphany on and actually reduced his anxiety in these energies of understanding himself in order to understand others. How is it that they can actually assess themselves? Is there something they can do?
Yeah. One of the shifts I did, one of the things I did was to say, well, how could I make this information available to everybody? I had a 2-year waiting list to work with me. Mm-hmm. That's a really daft thing to have because there's only a certain amount you can help people, of me. So one of the things was I created the vitality test, which basically assesses your energy type. And it gives you a map. It's completely free for anybody that wants to take it. Right. And the reason it's free is because if we are going to work out the stuff that's going on in the world at the moment, mm-hmm. the stuff that's going on about humanity, about how we're seeing the very tribal nature appearing, how we're seeing families pulled apart, how we're seeing at every level a separation or a tribalization or a victimization mm-hmm. of things. The fundamental core thing we have to do is in my view, we have to have a better understanding of each other and where we come from. Wow. And that's why the vitality test is free.
So just to listen, all of our listeners, Nick's got this assessment or the test that's called the vitalitytest.com.
Yeah, you go to the 5institute.com.
So the
5institute.com or search on Google.
F-I-V-E or
F-I-V-E.
F-I-V-E institute.com.
Or put in the vitality test into Mr. Google or Mrs. Google.
Or God Google.
Or God Google.
Yes, yeah.
God Google.
Yeah. Google God. Basically, you tap in vitality test and it will take you to the vitality test. And what does a person need to do? I can't believe we've got no time. We've got 10 seconds. So I'm going to be quick about this. I do apologise. I hope you've enjoyed it today on The Empower with myself, Nick Haines and Sukhi Wahiwala. See you next week.
You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Isha Azan. This Azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission, serving humanity since 1962.
Allahu Akbar.